Hello again. Welcome to another session of Azure is Easy. In this session, we're going to talk about how we can build an Azure function and secure it properly. In the previous session, we talked about how we can expose an APIM through VNet external. We created a network security group, a public IP, and a VNet. We created a subnet and we attached the subnet to the VNet, and we also attached the NSG to the network. Yes, so we exposed the APIM securely, and now we want to create a function app. So we're gonna start searching for function app. Click on create. There are different flavors here, as you can see: flex, consumption, premium, app service, and container. Well, there's a summary of these services here, hosting options here, but let's go to Azure website to get more information about these ones. Each of these a specific hosting option. As you can see here, there are a good summary of the documentation, each of the hosting plan. So one thing noticeable is that Flex consumption provides horizontal scaling. But what is horizontal scaling? Horizontal scaling means assume something like old desktop, a computer desktop. When you do horizontal scaling, you add another case or another desktop next to that one. It kind of do the load balancing and distribute the power to different cases or racks that you have. This is the concept of horizontal scaling because you're adding a new computer or a new power computing source. We don't need to restart the computer. But on the other hand, we have vertical scaling. Vertical scaling means opening the case of those computer desktop, install more RAM or CPU into that one. Because we are installing a new RAM or CPU or new processing power, this means that we may encounter restarting. Getting back to the documentation, there are various information there, various helpful information there which you can find out, but the most important point for us is private endpoint. So we are searching for private endpoint. As we can see, flex consumption is the one that supports, along with the premium or dedicated or container, all of these support private end, but consumption doesn't. So we're gonna go ahead, same resource group, we're gonna put a function app name for it. It should be unique because it's been exposed to Azure backend or Azure, so it should be unique. We're gonna select Australia East. We're gonna select Python 310, and we're gonna be the cheapest instance size, which is 512 megabyte. We will create a new storage, try to give it a meaningful name. We are not using OpenAI, please skip that, but we're gonna use a private endpoint. So we're gonna turn off the public access because we want a secure deployment. We're gonna enable virtual integration or VNet. We select the VNet that we created before, and we also need to create a private endpoint for the inbound traffic. So inbound means whatever traffic that goes to function app. Outbound is whatever traffic goes outside of the function app. We leave the outbound off because we do all the calculation or do the logic inside the function app. We don't need any outbound access, but we have to set up the inbound access. So it means whatever needs to go to the function app, it should come from this specific link. We are giving it a name, and of course we need to define a subnet. So this private endpoint, which has a network card, going to be attached to that subnet. We're going to use the default DNS. We need DNS because we need a domain service name, and we need to translate the domain name, the name, to the IP, and vice versa. Hence, we need a DNS setting as well. Another thing is that when we are creating endpoint, we are creating a private link on top of that one. So private endpoint is a subcategory of a private link. We are setting the outbound access to off, as explained. No monitoring is required, so we're gonna turn off the app insight. Great, we are going to the deployment section. We don't allow basic authentication because we're gonna use Visual Studio Code, and in industrial section we're gonna use GitHub. This page summarizes a brief, actually provides a summary of different options that we have, like a custom role with no permission, how we can do that, how to disable it, and in case you need to go with a different option, it provides a good set of instruction to set it up properly if you in case you need to basic authentication. But usually we leave it off as we do the deployment through ADO Git. Next step, let's go to authentication. We're going to use manage identity because it's more secure. It has the RBAC in the back end, so it uses intro ID. This is the managed identity that we're going to use. We need a host storage and a deployment storage as well, both with the blob data owner RBAC and the blob data owner access group or permission. So host storage is for the information about the host, and deployment storage is our code, the function app code that's going to be deployed there. Host storage is usually for logging. As I explained, we need the blob data owner as well, and these are all set automatically to the managed identity that we are creating, which is mentioned here for this function app. Both of them are in the same storage account. We are going ahead and check the information that everything is correct as we expected, and click create. A validation gonna happen. Now we are in the Visual Studio Code. First of all, we need to install an extension. I'm gonna show you shortly. This is the Azure extension that I installed. So let's search it. This is the one, Azure function. So it has the blue check or blue tick mark. It means it's original develop. The developer has been authenticated and it comes from Microsoft. It's a secure one. So we're gonna install it. Because I'm gonna use Python, we're gonna install the Python as well, published by Microsoft. So always check that it has the blue mark, as it says it's a kind of validation in place. So getting back the code, this is the code that I wrote. It supports both post and get method. It's a simple function app. It gets a parameter called name, and it just prints hello name. This HTTP triggered function was successfully triggered or called. As you notice, there are two types of two JSON file here. Host means this is the configuration that's for the host, for the hosting environment, which is the app service that we created. So it's gonna be flex consumption. Local.settings.json is another critical JSON. It contains the setting for the local development. This was empty, this was blank. In the double quotation, I have added use development storage to true, so I can run it and test it locally. So this is the place, and there is a workspace at the bottom. I click on the create a function, selected HTTP trigger. As you can see here, there are different types of trigger like event grid, event hub, or queue. For the storage account, there is a storage emulator, which kind of simulate the storage account in Azure. We can install it and use it for local development. But for example, for service bus and other types of the triggers that we have, it might be easier to use Azure services and use them to create that trigger or that event. So it means when something trigger means when something changes in any of these ones, the function gonna be called and the function gonna be executed. In here, there is a usual sign in button. We can't see that, but I guess we can test it later. Or when you're gonna do it, you're gonna sign in option. You need to sign into your tenant. It's recommended to have MFA, so it's gonna be secure. The function app.py is the code that I created. Now we're gonna start the function app locally. Always check if it's turned off correctly, otherwise use the task manager and kill it with the process if you need to. So I'm gonna run this one and test it locally to see if it works fine or not. So as you can see here, this is the endpoint, localhost 7071, API HTTP trigger 1. This is the address that we can use locally to test the HTTP trigger. So we can send a request to this one and see how it works. To achieve that one, we have different options like using Shell in PowerShell in initial scripting or use Thunder client. Thunder client is a kind of lightweight API management. It's similar to Postman, but a simpler version, which I used it before. It's a good one. It's easy to use and it's free. You can use it for testing. Postman is more enterprise edition of that one. Most organizations prefer to have Postman, but Thunder clients can be installed Visual Studio Code and kind of used for debugging and testing. So I'm gonna click on new request, which I did before. We need to grab this URL, put it there, and we put a name there because we need to pass a name. So in this case, we are passing Nicole as a name. You can see here it has it's in the URL, and we get a response back. Hello Nicole, this HTTP triggered function executed successfully. We can change it to another one and send. Works fine, no issue. We need to test it for post because our code works for post and get method. This is the post method. We don't need to put we need to put the value or the JSON in the body. So if there is a JSON content, we're gonna put name, we're gonna call it. It works fine. We're gonna change the name to something else like myself. Send. It works fine, so no issue. So we were able to test both of them successfully. We're gonna stop debugging, and we can press this button, this little icon here to deploy to Azure. We need to select a subscription. My subscription doesn't show up. Let me see what went wrong. It usually should appear, and we should, as a kind of drop-down list, and we should be able to select it. Possibly I need to close my Visual Studio and open it again. Yeah, I'm gonna stop recording and test it again to see what was the issue. Yeah, just restarting solved the problem. Lucky us. We're gonna go to the extension. Now we can see that sign into Azure that I was talking about. I'm gonna do a sign in. I'm gonna pause it. Now we sign in. As you can see here, we are able to see the subscription that we have. So I select the subscription that I created, that function app, an app service plan. App service plan is like a VM. It's a serverless, like a VM with different features. Virtual machine. Just imagine it as that one. We're gonna deploy it. Do you think we can deploy this successfully without any issue? The function app. Let's see how it's going. It's deploying. Another thing that in the Python we have to install this library. It's called Azure Functions, so we can install it by pip install. Okay, we got an error, 403 error, and it's a forbidden, so seems we can't publish it to the function app. So what could have gone wrong? Just think about what we have done so far. If we go to the portal and go to the resource that we deployed, if you remember, we disabled public access and we use private endpoint. So for deployment, we should be in the same subnet that we created. So we need to be in here to be able to deploy this successfully. If we create a VM and put it in here, we can publish it from that VM, which is in the same VNet. This is the private link that I was talking about. So that private endpoint is part of this one, and we saw this is the network interface that we created. So going back to the resource group, yeah, these are the resources that have been deployed, and we can see the same network card here. These were created before in the previous video. The rest are created as part of the deployment that we did a few minutes ago. Private link, it's the DNS one that we created. This is the private endpoint. This is the network interface that we created. So all of these have been created as part of the recent deployment that we did. Private link is being used. It has a DNS setting, which we use the default Azure DNS setting. This is the storage account that we created. This is the function app. And now we are in the storage account. Please note, when we are creating the storage account, by default Azure didn't put it in the same subnet, so it's publicly available. This is a security risk, so we need to make it use the private endpoint. You know how we did that one, so you can replicate that process that we did for function app in here and securely connect the function app to the storage account. When we are using private endpoint, the traffic goes through Azure and the back end that we created, so the same subnet and VNet. It doesn't leave that VNet, that virtual network that we created. However, in the configuration, you can see anonymous access is disabled by default, so it means no anonymous access is allowed, but we need to have a storage account access key. So we need to have that one, to have access key, which is a security option. It's a good security approach. Usually we can use manage identity because it's one level up than a secure key. Going back to the function app, to the networking, we need to make it available at least for a few seconds or few minutes. So we can use the whitelist our IP. We can put any priority number. A lower number means a higher priority. And we need to put a description, and we can put our IP here. We don't need to put a specific CIDR or the slash something. Just put your IP. It kind of work, no issue. You can create and add your IP here. But we're gonna go enable it for all networks. Easier. It's less secure, possibly the least secure option. We are going that instead of our IP because it's easier, possibly faster, but is possibly, I can say, let me correct myself. I could have done it through my IP, but I prefer to do this for this recording. So we expose that one, getting back, a setting, actually defining the function, the subscription, and we are doing another publish. Let's see how this one goes. Our first step one is being completed. Failed. What could have wrong? What could have gone wrong? Let's check the private endpoint one more time. Going to the network configuration. So basic authentication is off. That's okay. We're gonna use Visual Studio while you signed in. We're going to networking. It's enabled with no access restriction. Good. So it seems everything is in the correct order. There might be some delay. So when we change the network configuration, it might be a few seconds. Azure needed a few more seconds to apply that one. So we're gonna do it another time. Hopefully we're gonna get no issue. Yes, override the deployment. Step 1 to 4. Great. It's progressing. We don't see that step anymore. We are going to the next step. Step number 2. That, as you can see here, we are deploying to the subscription, and we are using deploying the code to that storage account that we created. It's a blob storage, as you can see, blob.core.windows.net, and it's using token for authentication. It says token endpoint, so which is good. Give it a few more seconds. So far, so good. No issues. It's encouraging. Great. Deployment was successful. So our code was deployed successfully to Azure, to the function app. Let's turn off the public access as a security mechanism. Great, public network access is disabled. Good. We are using private endpoint, which is great. We don't need any outbound, so it's not configured because our Azure function doesn't need to send anything to anywhere else. Great. This is the function that we created, HTTP trigger. This is our code. Deploy successfully, no issue. We can run it here. We can use get because it's easier to test. We can use the default function key here, put a name, and test it. What do you think? Do we get any response here? No. Why? Because private endpoint is disabled. Sorry, public access is disabled. So we can test it as well. If we want to test it, we need to enable this one again, public access. Interesting. The save is not working, it's grayed out. Possibly a bug. Let's see. We change the network another time. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening here. Possibly there's a bug in the GUI. In a production environment or an enterprise, we usually bicep or Terraform as infrastructure as code. It's more secure. Okay, so the trick was just select another one, enable from selected virtual network, and select back, go back to the all network. So save was enabled after that simple trick. Possibly a bug. Great. Let's go to Azure. The function app, test it, change it to get, put a name there. Oh, works. Perfect. So the issue was public access. We are able to test it locally. Now let's turn off the public access and use private endpoint. Sure, we usually don't need that kind of testing, but just as a purpose of demonstration, I did that. Great. So we deployed our Azure function. It works fine. No issue. We tested that. Always remember to use the network configuration based on your requirement. Don't leave it open. It's not secure. Thanks for watching.